Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about Spartacus, House of Ashur. We've also got a on-beat segment, a pretty large on-beat segment, because Sony had a pretty eventful state of play. Usually their state of plays are kind of boring, but this one actually had some good stuff. So we got quite a few things to talk about from that. We also got some regular trailers that were sprinkled up through this week that we got to cover as well in that news segment, and one news story as well in addition to that. And then we've also got our On the Horizon segment, which is where we're going to start.
On the horizon. On the horizon.
On the Horizon is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. And we're starting with American Dad, which is returning to Fox on Sunday, February 22nd. Now, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think it actually moved to TBS and is now moving back to Fox.
Huh.
So that's just kind of a weird thing. It was like a Fox show, and then it was like a cable show, and now it's like a Fox show again. I'm not 100% sure when it moved around. I don't have traditional cable anymore, so it's hard to keep track of all that, but I remember it making a switch to TBS, not like reruns, but like new episodes. Kind of like they did with, Futurama when it went from being a Fox show to being like Comedy Central.
Right.
Next up, we have The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins. So this is, I think we talked about this when it was announced a while ago, but this is the new show from Tina Fey and Robert Carlock. It stars Tracy Morgan. He's like a washed-up athlete. And Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter himself, is playing like his agent or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They had a trailer come out for it not too long ago, but yeah, this is the new comedy from Tina Fey, basically, starring Tracy Morgan and Harry Potter. And that's coming on Monday, February 23rd to NBC. Paradise. So this is coming on Monday, February 23rd to Hulu. Do you know anything about this show? This is the second season. Have you ever heard of this show?
No.
So apparently, apparently this has like a batshit crazy twist that happens like halfway through the first season. It's just like absolutely insane. It's become one of those things that like is on my backlog. Like I need to watch this because I'm hearing too much. Stuff is getting spoiled for me, and it just sounds like an absolutely batshit insane thing to do. So I need to kind of tune in at some point and check it out. But that show stars Cyclops as the president of the United States.
Huh. James Marsden.
Yes, he plays the president.
Okay. Literally never heard of this. I have no clue. You just said Cyclops as the president, and I'm like, that's not ringing any bells whatsoever.
He's not the main character either, but I remember seeing trailers for it, and it was supposed to be about and the trailers came out for the first season. It was like, oh, the president's like dead, and they're doing some kind of cover up, and the Secret Service agent is being blamed and stuff. And then I found out later on, people were talking like, oh no, it takes this batshit crazy left field turn that nobody would have expected and goes in a completely different direction that's unlike anything described, has nothing to do with anything that was described initially. So it's kind of intrigues me on those grounds. Scrubs is returning to ABC and Hulu on Wednesday, February 25th. This is on ABC, and then the next day on Hulu. Scrubs is back, I guess, with the original cast.
Yeah, hey, I saw the trailer. It looked really fun.
Yeah, with the original cast. So, no, it's not a Verizon commercial.
It's actually Scrubs, yeah.
The Grey House is a Civil War drama that's being produced by Morgan Freeman and Kevin Costner. And that's coming on Thursday, February 26th to Amazon Prime. The Disney Afternoon Collection, finally coming to Switch and Switch 2 on Thursday, February 26th. We mentioned this before in a news story where we were talking about how it had 2 additional games. Well, now it's finally coming Thursday, February 26th. In the Blink of an Eye, which is a new sci-fi movie that takes place over the course of thousands of years. It goes into the past and then through the past into the present and into the distant future. That movie is coming on Friday, February 27th to Hulu. Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. This is the Godzilla tie-in series that has Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell both in it, where they play the same character but at different ages. But it's connected to the Godzilla movies, the American Godzilla movies. So the Kong versus Godzilla and those movies. That's coming on Friday, February 27th to Apple TV Plus for its second season. Tales of Berseria Remastered is coming on Friday, February 27th to PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch. I didn't see anything about a Switch 2 version. That seems weird, but okay. Maybe that's eventually just going to get a patch or something. Resident Evil Requiem. See, I know what you're going to be doing on Friday, February 27th, or whenever your physical copy comes in.
You caught me.
That is coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch 2. So that's going to be a big one. Pillion, this is the gay biker comedy drama with Alexander Skarsgård. That's coming on Friday, February 27th to theaters, as is another thing that you're going to be doing that day, Scream 7. Well, I guess later when it comes out on digital or something.
Later.
Later when the Blu-ray comes out or something. Resident Evil Requiem and Scream 7 on the same day. That's interesting. That's it for our On the Horizon segment, though. And now we're going to move on to On Beat.
On Beat.
As I mentioned, On Beat is our news segment. We're going to cover the state of play. We're not covering the whole thing, but we're covering quite a few games from it. We also have 4 trailers we're going over and 1 news story, and that's where we're going to start. And that news story is that Jason Statham is teaming up with David Leitch on Jason Statham Stole My Bike, which is an action comedy, a fairly high budget for like this kind of movie.
I had to do a double check to make sure I wasn't getting this news for one of those parody accounts, discussing fish. I was because it sounded like a parody headline, The Onion tweeted it out. I was Jason Statham stole my bike. I was okay. I said, no, it's real.
It's a meta comedy. Actors love doing these. I mean, Nicolas Cage did one with that. What was that? The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yes.
Where he played himself. But what's interesting about this is primarily David Leitch being involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that caught my eye. Obviously, the concept is interesting, regardless of who would be doing it. Already, the concept is okay, well, that's a funny setup. Why is Jason Statham stealing bikes? But David Leitch doing it, that just takes it to the next level, because, his work, he is one of the best action directors of the modern era.
And particularly, he's good with, action comedy. He did The Fall Guy, which is really good. He did Deadpool 2, and he also did Bullet Train, which we both loved, I believe. So, him being involved is, really cool, especially when you pair it up with the concept that it's about Jason Statham playing himself, and then you have David Leitch directing that. It's oh, okay. So this isn't just gonna be the Blood Ritual mandated annual Jason Statham movie, where every year a new Jason Statham movie comes out that's pretty much the exact same plot with a different setting every time. It's Jason Statham, he's weary and he has a past, but he's weary and he's in isolation or in hiding or something or doing something else now. And then he gets close to some family and the daughter of that family is in trouble and he has to go back into action and kick ass and stuff. Every year we get a new movie with that basic plot starring Jason Statham. So it's happy to see, I'm happy to see something that kind of breaks that mold a little bit at least.
And the title introduces so many questions. They're keeping the plot a secret, but we know Jason Statham steals the bike. So is Jason Statham the antagonist? Does he have a good reason for stealing the bike? Is the bike connected to state secrets?
Every so often, Jason Statham does something that's kind of more fun and interesting. Crank is a good example of that. That's a really funny movie. But usually, like I said, he just does these really generic, one-off kind of action movies with the exact same plot repeated every year. As I said, it's almost it's mandated by a blood ritual or something.
I think it's just the man has no ego and it is willing to just take whatever for a paycheck.
Yeah, pretty much. But this shows that he actually got attached to something interesting this time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like Jason Statham, so.
Yeah, I like him in everything he does. It's just a matter of
he does some real crap. Yeah.
Remember when Nicolas Cage was making garbage after garbage after garbage because he was in money trouble or something? I wonder if Jason Statham was in money trouble or something.
Maybe. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, but that's it for our regular news stories, and now we're going to move on to Sony's PlayStation State of Play event. So usually Usually these are like insanely boring. Even if they show good stuff, the format is so fucking boring that it just like, it wears on you. Like, it's like, oh, and we're showing you the game and now watch a developer play it and talk about it for 20 minutes. And it's so boring and everything. This one was like, it was scheduled, I think it's like 70 minutes long. And it was like, okay, this is going to be
60.
another really bad one. And then it ended up
Really
like just
bad
a shit ton of content, like and it was just pretty back to back. Not quite as fast as like a Nintendo Direct tends to be, but pretty quick for a Sony event, you know, where it just kind of went through like trailer to trailer to trailer. And they happened to show like a lot of interesting stuff. Oddly enough, like most of it's not PlayStation exclusive. A lot of these are coming to like everything, but it's like they happen to secure like really good stuff for their show this time. Let's get started. We have a list. We'll just work our way down it. These are the ones that we thought were kind of interesting. We're going to start off with God of War. There were 2 God of War announcements that were shown at this State of Play. First, they had a remake trilogy. Basically, they're remaking, I think, all individually. Like, they're remaking them individually. I don't think they're remaking them as, like, a trilogy collection.
No. Yeah, I think they're doing, like, each one individually. They're remaking God of War 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. The old, like, the PlayStation 2 ones.
God of War 1 and 2 are PlayStation 2 games. God of War 3 was a PS3 game.
Okay. But that era, these aren't, like, the newer games.
Yeah, this is referred to as, like, the Greek trilogy, because those are the ones that are, like, set in Greece and focus, like, on the Greek pantheon.
But this is Santa Monica Studios that's doing this, and they didn't do the originals, right? Like,
No, they did.
Okay, they did, but it was under different leadership.
It was under different... Yeah, it was, like, that was back when David Jaffe was...
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the guy who can't play Metroid.
Yeah. David Jaffe was one of the main guys on the original God of War. He was the director of the original games.
Mm-hmm. And now he can't play Metroid.
He can't play Metroid Dread. He can't figure it out. He was actually only involved in God of War and God of War 2.
Yeah. And then besides those, he also worked on Twisted Metal. Which
Twisted Metal was also like his... Yeah, the big thing that came out like for the PS1. That came out really early in the PS1's lifespan too. And that was like one of the early biggest hits for PlayStation. You know, there was for a while like David Jaffe had some real credibility with the fan base. He did Twisted Metal, then he did God of War, and then he kind of like just didn't do anything after that.
And these God of War games, they kind of fit in with like the Devil May Cry, Bayonetta type action games.
Yes!
It's kind of like an American version of that.
God of War like has its own playstyle. It doesn't like quite play.
It is similar in the sense that it's giant set pieces, QTE event finishing moves, like that kind of stuff.
It does. It's funny because I would describe the combat in Castlevania Lords of Shadows to be like more God of War like than Bayonetta or DMC like. It is similar, but it's definitely like God of War playstyle is like its own thing. Another one that was like a God of War clone was that game EA released for the Xbox and PS3, Dante's Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
That was very much like a God of War clone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very forgotten about game.
It was pretty fun. I actually had that game. It was pretty fun.
But they haven't, I mean, like, they haven't done a remaster, they haven't continued the franchise, they haven't, it's just gone, you know?
Yeah, no, like, I saw, like, they were gonna do a sequel, but they canceled it, because it's EA.
Yeah.
And EA is like, if a game doesn't, like, sell 5 million copies, they're just not gonna invest any more in it.
But yeah, they announced a trilogy remake. These are probably gonna be individual games. No platform announcements, nothing. This might be like a PS6 thing, for all we know.
Yeah, it seemed like these are a ways off.
Yeah.
Like, they had the original voice actor for Kratos on to, like, announce these. He even said during his spiel that, like, it'll be a while before we talk about this again.
It's interesting because the series took a huge tonal shift after the original trilogy, the Greek trilogy, as he called it. Like, it was very, like, crude and crass. There were, like, sex mini games and just, you know what I mean? Like, it was like that. And then the newer ones that have come out are more like these kind of cinematic experiences, more mature, like, better storytelling and stuff. And these seem to be, like, from what we've seen, like, ground up remakes, like, complete remakes, like Final Fantasy VII remakes type remakes, you know? These aren't like remasters, these are like full remakes.
Yeah, because like the current director of the franchise, Cory Barlog. He seems like they put a lot of work into giving Kratos more depth and humanizing him more, making him more of like an interesting character. Apparently, David Jaffe did not believe in giving characters any like real depth or motivation, other than like his whole thing was he just had to be cool and excite like 13-year-old boys.
And you can't have any rooms where you have to shoot at creatures that are out of view to figure out the puzzle of how to get to the next area.
Yeah. Apparently, like, his whole thing was Kratos didn't need to have depth, he just needed to be cool. And so it was a very different philosophy between, like, the current runners of the franchise and, like, back then.
Yeah, and then they announced another game, like a Metroidvania-style game, apparently, that was Shadow Dropped.
Shadow Drop!
Yep. God of War Sons of Sparta, which stars a young Kratos and his brother. So this is like pre-curse Kratos, where he has like the ash sticks to his skin, whatever the curse was, you know? This is like before that, when he was a child, basically. So this is not really super capable, and it's about him kind of becoming more capable because it's a Metroidvania, so that's what you do in those games. And as you said, it was Shadow Drop. There were rumors about this game before it was announced. When nobody knew that this game actually existed, there were rumors about this game, and that it was going to be multi-platform.
Yep, which turned out to not be true.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it will eventually. Maybe like they'll eventually port it or something. But it's interesting to me that like we didn't know this game existed. The rumors about it existing and being multi-platform were coming out, and then it turned out to be true, except it wasn't multi-platform.
Yeah. I didn't think so. I mean, people like expect Sony to start doing they're not going to do that. I mean, I think Lego Horizon was an exception.
Mm-hmm. I think the idea they were saying was that this is a spin-off like that. It's not like the main game, you know?
Yeah,
like you don't expect the God of War trilogy remake to be multi-platform, but Sons of Sparta being kind of like a spin-off or something.
Yeah, and I could see the logic.
Yeah. We got another franchise with multiple games. This one, a very similar parallel, because this is Legacy of Kain Defiance Remastered was announced. So the previous Legacy of Kain games were already remastered.
The difference is this has been a pretty dormant franchise for a while, outside of like the remaster that came out, which was Legacy of Kain 1 and 2 remastered.
Yeah, that's a Soul Reaver and the original, I believe.
Yes.
And then this is the third game in the series?
Yeah, this is Defiance. Yeah, so this is the third game. So basically the game series is Blood Omen on the PS1, which I don't know if like you were aware, but Blood Omen on the PS1 was like Silicon Knights. That was like one of their first games.
Yes. Dennis Dyack.
Dennis Dyack, yeah. And then Dennis Dyack and Silicon Knights had zero involvement with the rest of the series from that point on.
Yeah, the rest of the series was done by Crystal Dynamics, right?
Yeah, Crystal Dynamics, yeah. They followed up Blood Omen with Legacy of Kain, which was a 3D, you know, like action-adventure game, which I played.
A better received one, I think.
Yeah, better received. Which I played on the PS1. I fell in love with it. I thought it was like, the story was great. It was really original. The gameplay was like a great game at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I never played any of the other ones, I gotta admit. But they followed that up with Legacy. No, I think the next game to come out was Blood Omen 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did Legacy of Kain 2. Then they did Defiance.
Yeah, so this is Legacy of Kain Defiance Remastered.
Which Defiance, like, was the game that brought the Blood Omen and Legacy of Kain games together and was, like, supposed to, like, basically finish that story.
Yeah, this is coming to PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PS4, PS5, Switch, and Switch 2. So the whole gamut, basically.
And so that leaves Blood Omen and Blood Omen 2 without remasters.
Yeah, those are probably going to be packed together as like they did with the first collection.
Yeah, probably.
But like with God of War, where God of War they announced like a trilogy remake, this they announced a remaster, and then they also announced a Metroidvania spin-off. They also announced a Legacy of Kain Metroidvania spin-off called Legacy of Kain Ascendance, but this was not in the state of play, but the trailer came out like right alongside it as if it was. I saw people that were reacting to it that were like, that saw the trailer and were like, did I like go into a coma and miss this trailer?
I saw that and I was like, what? That wasn't, I didn't see anything about a new game. I saw the remaster. Yeah, it was so weird that they did not have the starting state of play. But yeah, this is a 2D, and by the way, by 2D, this literally looks like a GBA game.
Mm-hmm.
Graphics-wise, it's very clear that this is being made on a budget.
Yeah. I mean, it looks very Castlevania, though. Like, it has, like, a very, like, Castlevania.
At that point, this is basically just Castlevania with the Legacy of Kain license.
Yeah. It definitely has, like, that, like, Castlevania, like, Game Boy Advance look to it, you know?
Yes.
But it's Legacy of Kain Ascendance, and this is coming also to PC, Xbox Series X, PS5, Switch, and Switch 2. Well, it's not coming to PS4 or Xbox One.
Yeah.
Which is odd. Like, the remaster is, but the pixel art Metroidvania is not, you know?
Oh yeah, that is very weird.
Yeah. Next up, we got Brigandine Abyss coming to PC, Xbox Series X, PS5, and Switch 2. So this is like a SRPG, like a strategy RPG along the lines of like a Final Fantasy Tactics type of game. But what's interesting here is that this was a dormant franchise from like the PlayStation 1, but then it also had like a sequel, like a surprise sequel that came out about 6 years ago now to pretty much everything, to like Switch and all the systems basically. But now this game is like another game in the franchise. So a lot of times when they do these kind of like follow-ups to like dormant franchises, it's like a one-off kind of thing. It's like we're making one more game in this series for the fans of it. It's like a fan service move, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is like now officially like a relaunch of the franchise. And it went from being a single game on PlayStation to now like two modern games basically added to the franchise. So
yeah, it's crazy to see like a franchise get resurrected and continue in the modern age like that.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. Next up, we got a trailer for Project Windless, which is apparently based on a book series, I think from South Korea, that is, they call it like the South Korean Lord of the Rings, basically.
Yeah.
But it's like a giant chicken.
It shows, I think, like these reptile people. It's so funny because like they have like the villain, like the main villain talking, and she's talking about like, oh, like these unclean people, really like bad mouthing these people. You think, okay, well, they're talking about the humans, obviously. And it turns out like it's a giant chicken.
Yeah. But it's like very serious. This isn't like a comedy game.
No, yeah, this is like 100% serious. It's just kind of like the juxtaposition between what you're presented with and what you're expecting is completely just off. Yeah. But this kind of looked like a mix between, I don't know, this looked like a mix between like a character action game and like Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's kind of, it has like action RPG meets Dynasty Warriors kind of vibe.
Yeah, because you're doing all these flashy moves and stuff, but you're fighting like waves of enemies at once. It's not like a one-to-one thing.
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me of like the more recent like Hyrule Warriors, where they're still Dynasty Warriors style games, but they put more into like story development and stuff like that than like typically it was just like, oh, here's another battle and here's another battle. It was like you go in the menu and go from battle to battle, and that was kind of like the old Dynasty Warriors format, you know? And now this, like with the Zelda ones they've been kind of making more like a complete cohesive story, you know? So it kind of reminds me of that, but like taken to like another level, like AAA budget, you know, really like impressive looking, and the action looks a little bit better than, you know, what you typically expect in like a Dynasty Warriors game too. Like it's almost like Wukong or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it looks absolutely gorgeous too, by the way.
But that's crazy. That's coming to PC, Xbox Series X, and PS5. No Switch 2 version that we know of yet. Next, we got Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2 coming to PC, Xbox Series X, PS5, Switch, and Switch 2. Again, this is interesting. Not coming to Xbox One or PS4, but it's coming to the OG Switch.
I was shocked that this was getting a Switch 1 version. I was 100%. There is no way with MGS4 here they're going to try and get this running on the Switch.
I mean, MGS4 was a PS3 game.
Yeah, it was, but it just seemed like they're not going to bother. Switch 2 is more capable. Just make a Switch 2 version. No, it's on Switch 1.
That's the big thing is Metal Gear Solid 4. That's the big thing. That was like a console lock thing.
It was only on the PS3. You had to, if you want to play MGS4, you have to have a PS3. You have to hook up your old PS3. people did not like that. People were annoyed by that, and rightfully so. And,
this also includes in the collection like a Game Boy, is it Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance game?
No, it's Game Boy
Metal Gear?
Color. There was never a GBA Metal Gear Solid game.
I just knew it was like an old 2D Game Boy.
It's for the Game Boy Color. It's Metal Gear Ghost Babel is the name of it. It's actually like one of the best games on the Game Boy Color, by the way.
Yeah, so this is Metal Gear Solid 4. It's three games, right? It's Metal Gear Solid 4. It's the PSP Metal Gear, right?
Yeah, it's Metal Gear Solid 4, Peace Walker, and Ghost Babel.
This is like a very strange collection. But I mean, obviously the big player here is Metal Gear Solid 4. That's doing the heavy lifting.
It's the major games that weren't on the last collection, right? Because like Peace Walker is a pretty big game. People consider Peace Walker.
Oh, it's like important to the story and stuff, apparently.
It's important to the story.
It's kind of like Age of Ultron, where like it kind of came and went and everybody kind of forgot about it, and then they started like tying all these stories into it and shit. So like you watch like a modern Marvel movie and it's got like all these connections to like this almost forgotten movie from the franchise, you know? It's kind of like that, where like this Peace Walker is like important to the canon.
What's interesting here is that they're doing a full port of MGS4. People were wondering how they're going to do it.
How many key cards are you going to need?
Yeah.
You need like 40 key cards.
40 key cards. They're doing like a full port of MGS4. It's interesting because people were wondering how they would handle MGS4. Would it be emulation? Well, PS3 emulation is not easy by any measure. In fact, Sony hasn't even bothered to attempt to do it on their own platforms, which is like, okay.
I think they just pulled the assets and did
they did a full native port to the platforms, which is like, that's the best thing to do, but that also must have been like a lot of work to natively port the game.
Like I said, that's the heavy lifting in this, because like if you look at the original collection, that had more games that were like bigger, you know, and this has like one really significant game and then two games that are kind of important to the fans, but they're not like the AAA entries in the franchise. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And
at this point,
so like it's 4 is
like
doing the heavy lifting in this collection, is what I'm saying.
At this point, we're out of AAA entries, unless you want to talk about Metal Gear Solid 5, which is, I mean, that's kind of pointless. You can already play that on these platforms, except for Switch.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I'm excited for it. I'm excited.
We should also mention, because we talked about Metal Gear Solid, that there's a certain point at the State of Play where it just became a Konami Direct.
Yeah, this was a start because, because apparently, PlayStation wanted to highlight their partnership with Konami, and they gave Konami, a whole section of the State of Play to talk about their projects. And this is where it really got exciting for me, because Konami's back. They're, actually serious about being in the games business again.
Yeah.
Which is really, heartening to see.
The rest of the games we're talking about are Konami. The next one we have is Silent Hill Townfall, and this is, the third Silent Hill game since Konami basically came back and was refreshed. One of them being a new game, then they did,
Silent
a remake of 2.
Yep.
And
by the way, all these games were announced at the same time. So the Silent Hill 2 remake, Silent Hill F, Townfall, were all, announced at the exact same time. So we're just, getting more info when these games are releasing.
Apparently Townfall is set in Scotland or something?
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I guess the fog is finally going to make sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Finally, a good narrative reason for the fog.
But this is coming to PC and PS5. This one is a PS5 console exclusive, but also coming to PC.
The fog was definitely for atmosphere and not to cover up for the PlayStation 1's lack of, draw distance.
Next game we got from Konami. This one was kind of the biggest surprise for me because as we talked about, Konami's back. They've made this new push. They've been putting out, a lot of games. They've been, just really hitting hard. But the way they've been doing it is mostly by partnering with other studios to make entries in, known franchises that they have.
Yeah,
they're not, doing new shit, and they're not really doing much, internal or anything. They're just going we're gonna partner with Blooper to do a Silent Hill 2 remake. It's been, that kind of stuff that Konami's been doing.
And Townfall is, Annapurna, so that's not internal either. In fact, the only, internal was, the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection.
Yeah. But then you got this game, which I think is also not internal, if I'm not mistaken,
nope,
but...
this is, Ilka.
But this
Ilka
is a new franchise. This is a new IP.
Yeah.
It's called Rev
This is a new JRPG IP.
Yes. And this is a PS5 exclusive. And yeah, this is a full-on brand new JRPG JRPG. The way they announced it almost reminded me of like Expedition 33, where they kind of really played into the idea of like, let's have the developer talk about their love for JRPGs and why it inspired them to make their game, you know? So they kind of were doing the same kind of promotional trick that they did with like Expedition 33 of going like, yes, this looks like a JRPG, and that's on purpose because we were really inspired by them. And this is like the same kind of thing, basically, where a lot of the time presenting this was the developer talking about how much they love JRPGs and stuff.
Right.
But we talked before the show, Konami has like basically one significant JRPG in their catalog, an existing franchise, and that's the Suikoden series, which they destroyed.
Which they did release a remaster, Suikoden 1 and 2, like very recently.
That looks good. It's almost got like an HD 2D style to it. But they've kind of destroyed that franchise because the latest entry was like a mobile gacha game, and they just basically said, yeah, fuck it, we don't care. Basically the same thing Capcom did with like Breath of Fire.
Yeah.
And this is a brand new big JRPG, presumably, if it's successful, the start of a new franchise. But yeah, that was kind of exciting and very off-brand for what Konami's been doing with this revival that they've had.
The most important announcement of the entire State of Play, by the way.
Castlevania Belmont's Curse.
Oh my god. There's like a new
Hold on, before we get started, let me just get out of the way. PC, Xbox Series X, PS5, and Switch. No Switch 2 version. I imagine maybe there's going to be a patch or something, but Switch 1.
But that's fine. I don't really care.
Yeah.
There's
probably going to be a patch. That tends to be what happens when they say it's only coming to Switch and not Switch 2. Then they have like a free patch or something, you know?
Right. This had been in development for a while, apparently, because there was the big rumor in 2021, before any of these games were announced, was that Konami was going to release a new Metal Gear, a new Silent Hill, and a new Castlevania. Mm-hmm. And the first two came true because we got Metal Gear Solid Delta, and we got the Silent Hill 2 remake, and another Silent Hill game. But Castlevania was largely absent. And it was like kind of like game, like, okay, was it canceled? Nope, here it is. It's new, it's Castlevania.
2D Metroidvania
it's 2D
style.
Metroidvania, yes. And what's interesting is this is outsourced to a third party. This is from the Dead Cells team, which
apparently they're overseeing, and there's another team that's doing it, I read.
It's Evil Twin. I don't know.
So I'm not sure exactly how it breaks down, but apparently the Dead Cells team is not doing the heavy lifting. They're kind of like overseeing it or something. And there's like a different team actually doing the majority of the work. But it definitely has that like Dead Cells art style, which I'm not too terribly fond of. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't look good. It does. I'm just saying like I just don't like the style, especially for Castlevania. I think it looks too like flowy and too flat for me.
I love it. I watched the trailer like a dozen times.
I know that's what that's been most people's reaction, but to me, like Castlevania, it just looks stylish. A bit too bright and a bit too flowy, a bit too flat for like what I would want, like for a Castlevania art style. I'm not saying it doesn't look good. I'm just saying it doesn't fit my personal taste.
Okay, fair enough.
Especially for Castlevania, like it just doesn't.
I think it looks great. I think it looks stylish. I love the fact that it's flowy. I love the protagonist is like a lot more acrobatic in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that looks really cool. I think visually it looks exciting.
And it looks a lot like Dead Cells.
Yes, it does. Apparently, because they did the collaboration, Dead Cells returned to Castlevania.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Konami worked with that team and realized these guys were the perfect to do a new 2D Castlevania game, apparently. And what's interesting is this is called Belmont's Curse. This is 20-something odd years after Castlevania 3, which is interesting that we're going back to that era, the Trevor Belmont era.
Mm-hmm.
The protagonist is Trevor and Sypha's kid, which is a girl, and we don't know this person's name. They haven't said it's a new Belmont. Rumors are saying it's Sonia Belmont because the character design is very, very similar to Sonia Belmont's design in Castlevania Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Legends was a Game Boy game. Legends was the first game in the Castlevania franchise to be released post Symphony of the Night. It was for the Game Boy, and it was very much an old school Castlevania game. It played like the other two Game Boy games, which came out years ago. And and it was not by Koji Igarashi or his team. It was another team at Konami. Igarashi had like no involvement in Castlevania Legends.
Mm-hmm. And as such, like you said, it was not a Metroidvania. It's like
it was a classic Vania through and through.
Yeah.
It was a classic Vania. It was just notable because it was the first game post Symphony of the Night. And what ended up happening is when Koji Igarashi went back to Castlevania, he basically, like in an interview or whatever, somebody asked him about Castlevania Legends. I don't know like how it came up, but he said that's not canon.
Yeah.
So the story of Legends was like Sonia Belmont was like, she was supposed to be like the very first Belmont. You know, It was like the origin, and Koji Igarashi said that's not canon, and in fact, Koji Igarashi made a Belmont origin story game for the PS2, which chronicles the first Belmont, and it's not Sonia. There was a big controversy when he did that too, because people like accused him of being misogynistic or decanonizing Legends for misogynistic reasons, because, oh no, like you can't have a woman protagonist.
He ended up having quite a few female protagonists, and
he ended up, I don't think it was that. I think it was like the typical Japanese creator like ego thing of like, well, this isn't my work. I don't consider it to be part of like my canon. I don't know.
Yeah.
But tying it back to this, the rumor is that this is Sonia Belmont, and they're retconning her back into canon by making her Trevor and Seifa's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Which, okay, alright, I'm down with that. But yeah, this was the best announcement of either the Nintendo Direct or the State of Play for me. This is 10 out of 10. Nintendo could have been 10 out of 10 if this game showed up there, but it didn't, so.
The Nintendo's was a partner direct, and Nintendo doesn't give a shit about their partner directs.
yeah, exactly. It's like, this is a partner, and this is a pretty big game coming to your platform, Nintendo.
They should officially call it Nintendo's contractually obligated partner direct.
Yes. Nintendo's, yeah.
But yeah, that's Sony's State of Play event. Now we're going to move on to other trailers that came out this week. And the first one we're going to be talking about is The Mummy. So we saw a teaser for this before. This is Lee Cronin's doing it. He did Evil Dead Rise. And now he's
like
doing
real big Evil Dead vibes from this.
Big time.
Yeah, big time, yeah.
There's a shot in the trailer of like, she's like throwing up into somebody else's face, like in their mouth. I'm like, that's so Evil Dead.
Yeah, that's so Evil Dead, yeah. Like,
I mean, there was a scene exactly like that in Drag Me to Hell, you know? It's very like Raimi-esque.
Yeah, very Raimi-esque, yeah. This definitely has like a lot more in common with Evil Dead than like The Mummy, to be honest. But it looks appropriately creepy and scary. And like, I think like if you were a fan of Evil Dead Rise, you know, like.
It has that sadistic edge that Evil Dead has that like,
yes.
I like that they need to have in that kind of stuff. And Lee Cronin, having worked on the Evil Dead franchise, like kind of brought that with him. So that's like cool. Next up, we got a trailer for Slanted. So this is like body horror by way of Model Minority.
Mm-hmm.
So the basic idea is that there's a girl, she's Asian, she wants to be taken more seriously at school and be like popular. And so she starts kind of making herself look more and more like white. She's like bleaches her hair and she's doing these kind of things. People do this like in Asian countries, like in every country has like their most popular like plastic surgery. In like South Korea, the most popular plastic surgery is like double eyelid surgery so that their eyes look more like Western. This is like something that exists but isn't talked about too terribly much, like this kind of like weird homogenized racism against Asians, like kind of like make them just be white kind of, you know, but taken to this extreme direction where it starts to almost feel like The Substance, that Demi Moore movie that came out recently, where it goes into like body horror and stuff. So it's like she gets this procedure that makes her like completely white, and then stuff starts kind of going wrong, and it goes into like a body horror direction. And so it's got that kind of like satire of that need to like change yourself mixed with like body horror, kind of like The Substance.
Yeah, it looks like really fun. Because like this is definitely like the vibe I got from the trailer is like a body horror satire comedy. There's like a really sharp comedic edge to it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like they're going for full horror like The Substance did.
Well, The Substance had that too. The Substance had like
it did, but
was very critiquey, you know.
This looked like a lot more camp than the Substance.
I don't know. It looked like The Substance to me. It looked like in the same day. Right. Teach their own, but that's Slanted. Next up, we got another trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu. I think
we got like an actual trailer.
What's left of LucasArts or Lucasfilm basically said, you know what? We can't let that Super Bowl ad be all that we're showing on this game.
Fortunate, yeah, this is what should have played during the Super Bowl. It didn't. I guarantee a lot fewer people have watched this trailer than would have seen it watching the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So, again, this is a perfectly fine trailer. I mean, I'll have a lot to say about it because it's The Mandalorian and Grogu. It gives you exactly what you would expect.
I like it more than the first trailer for it. It just kind of seems to have more of like the fun vibes that were like in like season 1 of The Mandalorian.
Oh yeah. It kind of like reminds me a lot of like season 1 Mandalorian, which is good. I think this is going to be a fun movie. But I just like want to talk about like how badly the marketing department for this film is dropping the ball.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this not your Super Bowl trailer?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah. That was a flub. I think everybody kind of reacted that way. Like, what the fuck is this shit? When the Super Bowl trailer, or not even trailer, Super Bowl commercial. It's not even anything that's in the movie. It's just basically a parody of a Budweiser commercial, an old Super Bowl Budweiser commercial. It's just like, okay, yeah, we get the joke. This is a Super Bowl commercial. People do that all the time where they'll like reference the 1984 Apple commercial or something like that, you know? But this is like, you're presenting a movie here and you're not even showing anything from the movie.
Yeah, exactly. How many people remember that? Because like, I certainly didn't get the reference.
I got it right away. Because it's not like one commercial. It's like every year Budweiser does like several commercials during the Super Bowl. They do like at least 2 usually. And one of them is always about their horses, like their Clydesdale.
Oh, their Clydesdale. Yeah.
And this is basically like, they're parodying a specific one, but which I didn't necessarily get the exact reference of. And I'm like, this is a Budweiser Clydesdale commercial.
Oh, gotcha.
Mandalorian and Grogu.
But yeah, just like really weird flub on the marketing
I think it would have been
department.
fine if they had ended that commercial saying like the teaser drops next week, or you know what I mean? Like if they did it in a way where it's like, we're just going to tease you now, but there's something else coming. But they didn't. It was just kind of like a standalone thing, and it's like, wait, what the fuck is this?
Right? Exactly.
Are they making a Mandalorian and Grogu beer? Like, what the fuck is this?
It really like reeked of, this is Star Wars. You're gonna watch it no matter what we show you.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Lucasfilm is not doing too great right now, so
yeah,
we'll have to see how Mandalorian and Grogu ends up performing, if it helps or just if it becomes a victim of what's going on with Lucasfilm right now. And then lastly, we got a trailer for Spider-Noir. This is the Nicolas Cage Spider-Man series. He's reprising the role from he had a very small role in like the Across the Spider-Verse movies as Spider-Noir, and he's kind of reprising that, but this time like in live action. And apparently this is the first TV show Nicolas Cage has done, and he said he was inspired by Breaking Bad, I guess. Like watching Breaking Bad and seeing like, this is what you can do with like long form television. You can like tell these like deeper character stories that you really can't do in a movie because you have such limited time. And so that was like Nicolas Cage's inspiration for being involved in this series. I'm curious how the series is going to be as a whole. I was curious like just to see it, and now we have, but I'm really curious like how this is going to hold up as like a whole separate, not connected entity comic book thing.
Right, yeah. It's certainly interesting. When he announced, I was like, okay, well, that's interesting to do as a series. You know,
they released the trailer in 2 versions. One's in black and white, like film noir style, and the other's in like kind of color, but like a very like desaturated color, like almost like the kind of artificial, like fake color that you would see in like movies from that era, like presented in Technicolor, kind of like color. You know what I mean? Like it's color, but it's like a little off. It doesn't look like natural. But yeah, they're doing kind of like the 2 versions of it. It's Spider-Noir, which means it's film noir Spider-Man. So you got to watch it in black and white.
Right. Oh yeah. It's just an interesting project, definitely, especially Nicolas Cage playing Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's see. He's played Ghost Rider.
Mm-hmm.
He played Superman. Yes.
Maybe.
No, because even if you don't count the Tim Burton movie that didn't get made, he's in The Flash.
I don't count that either, because that was like 3 seconds of like CGI.
Like really bad.
Really bad CGI, yeah.
It's like PlayStation 1, like, you know what it looked like is, when they did like those Lord of the Rings games on like PS2 and stuff, and like it would transition from like a cinematic in the movie to like the gameplay graphics, and all of a sudden it just, everything looked kind of blurrier and more like less detailed and stuff. It just kind of looked like that, like in the Flash.
We'll say he kinda played Superman.
But now he's playing Spider-Man.
Yes.
So next he'll play Super Spider-Man.
He'll play He'll play Super Spider.
Yes. The Arachnid Kid.
The Arachnid Kid, yeah.
But it'll be played by Nicolas Cage, who's like 60.
Yeah, 60. It'll be, hello, fellow kids.
He's got a skateboard over his back.
Yeah, he's got a skateboard over this, yeah.
But that is it for our trailers and our on-beat segment. And now we're going to move on to our final segment, full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, we are talking about Spartacus, House of Ashur. This is the continuation, like alternate history, redone take on Spartacus, where Spartacus was like a multi-series run. It's really kind of interesting because it started out, it was just going to be like a multi-season series, but then they ended up doing it as like separate series that each had their own subtitles. And I think that happened because the guy who played Spartacus had cancer and they had to, before he passed, they did Gods of the Arena as like a space filler. Like they said, well, let's do a prequel and we'll give him some time to cope with his cancer and do his chemo and everything else he needs to do. And while he's doing that, we'll do this prequel series.
Because they were
a separate name.
Yeah, Gods of the Arena was the prequel series they did.
Yeah.
Because the original Spartacus actor, Andy, I forgot his name. I'm so sorry. I don't have it on me.
Is it like Whitfield or something like that? Or
Andy Whitfield, yeah, was the original actor for Spartacus. And yeah, they did Gods of the Arena as a prequel to like, because yeah, he was going through cancer treatments and the hope was that, you know, like he would be better. He would get well in time for them to do the follow-up to Spartacus, you know.
To the actual season 2, basically, yeah.
Yeah, actual season 2. That tragically did not happen. Cancer took him and unfortunately, like the role of Spartacus did have to be recast for season 2.
Mm-hmm. And at that point they just decided we're just gonna kind of do each season as like its own subtitled series, you know?
And Spartacus, like the first season with Andy Whitfield was titled Blood and Sand. Mm-hmm. So it's like the trilogy is Blood and Sand, Gods of the Arena, and War of the Damned.
And there was also another one. I think it was Vengeance or something. Was another
was
one.
there?
There were there were 4 regular seasons, I think.
Huh.
I'm not sure.
I only remember like those 3. Maybe I missed something at some point. Vengeance. Yep, you're right. I did miss. Okay, yeah, Vengeance was before War of the Damned.
Yeah.
Okay, now right. Yeah, I missed that completely. So yeah, there was 4 seasons of the original series.
Ashur was a character in Spartacus.
Yes.
He was kind of like the weakest of the gladiators. He was a gladiator, but he was like the weakest of them, basically. But he was kind of like cunning and sly, so he became like a memorable character just because he was conniving.
Yeah, he was conniving, scheming, manipulative. He was a villain.
Yeah.
He was a villain.
A small-time villain. Like, he wasn't one of the main villains of the show at any point.
No.
He was like this kind of wild card villain that floated through
wild card bitches. But like, he always worked to further his own goals at the expense of like everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the series, he was killed.
Yep, he was killed after he betrays Spartacus and the slave rebellion to the Romans, and he is killed. He is beheaded at the end of the series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Spartacus still ends up dying, of course, because like that's the story.
Oh, yeah, they all died.
They all died. Yeah, the slave rebellion
died. Gannicus died. Spartacus. They all died
because that's the story of Spartacus. I mean, this is an adaptation of
history,
history, which was already adapted in like a film in like the 60s. I Am Spartacus. So yeah, this was history. This was the way things shaked out. Spartacus' slave rebellion was unsuccessful.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing about this is Stars wanted a new Spartacus series. You kind of run into like the question of, okay, well, you can't do a new Spartacus series because Spartacus is dead. You don't have Spartacus. Pretty much everybody from the original series is also dead. It would have to be like a new show set centered around entirely new characters, continuing like the story of like Roman history. And then they came up with a brilliant idea. They said, well, why don't we change history?
Why don't we retcon?
Yeah. We retcon. Instead of saving Spartacus, they decided to save Ashur.
Yeah.
Yeah. And bring him back and make him the protagonist of this new series, which I thought, okay, well, that's an interesting choice.
And then in the actual series, they did the retcon, like they didn't just pretend it didn't happen in the show. They did the retcon into the story.
They did the recap of the ending of Spartacus. They showed up front in the first episode, they showed Ashur getting beheaded.
Mm-hmm.
They show him dying, but like, yeah, they did a really interesting thing with this. It's where they explicitly like told the audience that this is a retcon. So like if you were coming into this like new, fresh without having seen any of the previous Spartacus series, if they didn't do this, like you wouldn't know this was a retcon to anything. So they're telling everybody, returning viewers, new viewers up front, we're retconning the story from the previous series.
Mm-hmm. And it's in the story. It's not like they... Yeah.
And they do it in like a really interesting way too, in which they show Ashur getting beheaded, and then Ashur wakes up in the underworld. He's visited by a goddess or an apparition of the underworld, taking the form of Lucretia, who was Lucy Lawless's character in the original show. So Lucy Lawless gets to make a fun cameo at the start of this.
Mm-hmm.
Who basically like grants Ashur like another life.
Mm-hmm.
Sends him back to the mortal world to live the life he would have lived had he not died.
Yeah. So this is like a retcon, like the actual official series starts after that moment with Ashur like waking up in bed, and the way the story is in this like alternate reality is that Ashur helped kill Spartacus, and he was honored by Crassus, who basically gave him his freedom and then gave him Batiatus's ludus.
And in this reality, like, yeah, Ashur is the one who throws the spear into Spartacus and kills him. That's not how it happens. And originally, the spear that kills Spartacus is not from Ashur, but in this version of events, it was. And because Ashur is the one who killed Spartacus, Crassus elevated him to freedom and having his own ludus.
Yeah, Batiatus is old ludus. So the one that he was a gladiator in.
Yes, that's the same one. And I should say, like, it's never, ever, ever referenced again that this is a retcon. The Underworld's never referenced again.
You kind of forget it, because it's not like Ashur has that in his perspective.
He doesn't.
It's almost like it was a strange dream he had or something.
Yeah.
Because they make it a point in the series that, like, he doesn't believe in the gods and stuff like that, you know? Even though he had this experience, which means that even he doesn't acknowledge this as something that actually happened.
Right,
It's just a strange dream he had.
Right, exactly.
And that's kind of, I think, one of the most unfortunate things about the series all the way up into the finale, is that they're not doing that much different. You've retconned something, that gives you, like, kind of a license to do all sorts of crazy shit, and they really weren't doing that until the end.
Oh, until the end, yeah.
Until the finale, then they go like, okay, now we're gonna become ahistoric.
Yeah.
Now we can just do whatever the fuck we want and really change things up, and that made it, like, much more exciting for me. I think the finale in general was, like, much more exciting for me, because even though I liked House of Ashur, there's a lot of stuff where I was like...
There's a lot of stuff that I thought...
I think the way we've talked about Spartacus in the past, like the original Spartacus series, because not only you and I, but like Ed, who used to podcast with us, he liked it too, and the way that the three of us would talk about it was that it was like one of those very, very rare instances where a show is like made up of all of these decent parts, but when they all came together, it was like way better than the sum of the parts. Like it shouldn't have been as good as it was, but it was.
Because the show was equal parts like trashy, like soap opera TV, and really like indulged in just being trashy television, which had a lot of like blood, sex, and violence, and and everything gratuitously so.
I remember watching
by the way.
I remember watching the first episode and just thinking like, oh, so they just ripped off 300.
Yeah.
It's like all this is they just ripped off the entire look.
This is trying to be like Zack Snyder.
Yeah. And it's like, and there's really nothing else to it. And then like a few episodes in, it's all of a sudden it became a lot more than that.
Oh yeah. Because the intrigue comes in and the story gets rolling, and you think like, oh, they're actually cooking.
Yeah.
It's like this here too. It's not really like this here, because it's kind of like...
I don't think in this case that
the story is like
it's better than the sum of its part. I don't think it is.
The story is a lot slower in the series than it was in Spartacus, but also because a lot of the intrigue that happens around here is Ashur is mostly like consumed with his station, trying to like improve his station in the games. He's 100% focused on the games at this point.
Yeah.
Then there's got a lot of like intrigue around various aspects of this struggle between Crassus and Pompey and that stuff that's mentioned in the background, but there's also a lot of, just people out to get Ashur because they don't like Ashur.
Basically, they're racist.
Yeah, basically.
They always refer to him as the Syrian. They don't even call him by name usually.
Even though he is a free man, he owns his own ludus. Like, nobody, is willing to...
really acknowledges it, yeah.
Will afford him any respect.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And so that's kind of like, the majority of the series is just Ashur just getting treated like shit, and then just having to eat it, And
just having to eat it, yeah, while he, tries to just prove himself in the games. He thinks, if he can prove himself through the games, if he can have somebody from his ludus as champion of the games, that's going to help him improve his station and improve his credibility, and so, he's focused on that.
I think part of what hurts the series, like this one, is that it comes from them doing the right thing, which is that basically all the good gladiators are dead.
Yes.
That slave rebellion was massive, and all, the legends, they're all dead,
Yeah, everybody dead. There's a scene
so this
where,
is the C-string,
There's a scene where, Ashur is ordered to help clean up, the bodies of the dead gladiators who have been, nailed to crosses.
Yeah.
And there's one point where, I think, one of the bodies they pick up was, Gannicus.
Yes, who was the star of the prequel series, and also became one of the main characters, in the later seasons.
Yes. And it shows, the legends are dead, and what Ashur has is a motley crew.
They're the C-stringers.
Yes.
And it's not even just them, it's the other gladiators at the other luduses are the C-stringers.
Yes.
These aren't of the same caliber. This isn't Crixus, this isn't Spartacus, this isn't Gannicus. These are the C-stringers. And I think that that's a good thing that they did that, because it gives impact to the original series. To say, all the, really, really good, crazy, awesome gladiators, they're all dead. The ones that we got now are, pale imitations. They even have a scene where he gets he's getting disrespected by his own gladiators, and he decides to he gets pissed off and takes it out, and he fights one and just annihilates it.
Yeah.
And ends up killing him, and just easily. It's not even hard at all for him. And again, he was the weakest gladiator.
Yeah.
Physically. He was smart, but he didn't beat this guy in House of Ashur by using his smarts. He just beat him, as a being better,
And Ashur's Doctore, Chorus, even after Ashur kills him, even says to him, that was our best guy that you just killed.
Yeah.
That was our most
and
talented.
Ashur's God damn it.
yeah. God damn it. Yeah, it's shown very early that Ashur has a short temper and is easily moved to be murderous.
Yeah. And it's for everything that's good about this series, respecting the original series, it also kind of hurts it because, again, like I said, these are all C-stringers. These they don't feel as epic and powerful as when Spartacus improved through the show, he didn't start out as an amazing gladiator. He learned to become a good gladiator through season 1. But there were other people, Crixus was already a total badass, you already had all these characters that were there's nobody like that in this series. There's nobody on that scale.
Kellidus is really good.
He's okay. He would have been a C-stringer in the old Ludus. He would have been a background character, a background gladiator. He's good, but he's not even in the same, it's he's minor league and the characters in Spartacus were major league. And I think that's very intentional that they're trying to make a point of that.
The story doesn't work if Ashur has awesome gladiators, right? The story doesn't work because
but like I said though, it's not even just Ashur's gladiators, all of the gladiators.
Yeah, but Ashur's whole thing is he's struggling, right?
Yeah.
So he's struggling to, if he had fucking Spartacus, like, he wouldn't be struggling. There wouldn't be, like, any, like, oh, I need to, like, he would already have a champion.
Yeah.
And then we'd have, like, nothing for him to do.
But like I said, it's not even just Ashur. It's like all the gladiators, the other Luduses, because you have, like, at least two other major Luduses that are played in here. You have Proculus, and then you also have, Opiter, also have gladiators. None of their gladiators are on the same scale as, like, the original series, like, even close, you know? Like, they have a lot of gimmick people, like, one of the main champions for Proculus is, like, a team of 3 dwarves, you know? And it's like...
the leader, Satyrus, it's so funny, too, because when they come out, you think, like, oh, this is a gimmick. These characters are going to be around long. And you're right, except for Satyrus, who ends up being, like, a semi, important character because, like, a reoccurring villain. And I think he's fantastic. It's so funny that the season finale, like, actually has you cheering for him.
Yeah. They kind of, like, turned that around a little bit. That was... The season finale, like, turned around a lot in the show for me.
Yes.
The thing is, and I still think, even with the season finale, like I said, the original Spartacus show was greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I think it was.
But I don't think this is. I don't think House of Ashur is better than the sum of its parts. I think it is the sum of its parts, and it's good, but it's not, like, of that same level as the original Spartacus. That could change, because the season finale, like, really, there's implications from the season finale that make it feel like it could go in a crazy direction.
Yeah, really, like, left it in, like, a really interesting place.
Yeah. So they finally started getting, like, crazy kills, because did you notice, like, in this season, like, also the kills weren't as crazy as they were in, like, the original series. Like,
no, they were like...
I remember the original series, somebody got their head sliced in half.
Yeah.
From the side of the head, and then it slid off like Jello. And it was like, what the fuck was that? That was, like, crazy. And there was, like, really nothing like that until the finale. There is a kill that just feels like old school Spartacus.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like a shield gets shoved into this gladiator's mouth, and then the gladiator hits it with her spear, and her head splits open, like, at the mouth, you know? Goes completely backward. It's a crazy kill. But it's like, okay, this feels like Spartacus now. Like that, like, it finally, like, is feeling like it. And then they did the craziest thing in the finale, which is they decided to go completely ahistoric.
Yeah.
And they said, you know, Caesar's a character. He was in the original too.
Yeah.
He was in the original series too, a very small role. Like, he was early in his career. He wasn't the warlord turned emperor that we know Julius Caesar as yet, you know? He was just like a soldier, basically. A soldier of good birthing, I guess. A soldier of good Roman birthing. And that's kind of like all he was in the original series. He was just kind of like a background character or something. And then here he plays a much more prominent role, but he's still not the Caesar that we know from history. He's still not that. He's still this, like, general, basically, kind of. And Ashur kills him in the finale.
Ashur kills him in the finale, yeah. Which was, like, the biggest what the fuck moment of the entire series so far.
Yeah, because the significance of Caesar in history, which it never was in the Spartacus shows because it's very early in his life and stuff at that point, but the significance of him in history is insane. It's like the Roman Empire before Caesar was a very different thing than the Roman Empire after Caesar, you know?
Yeah.
And to the point that Caesar became the title of the leader of Rome through generations and generations beyond his death. Like, you were called the Caesar. In Germany, they called you the Kaiser, which was also based on Caesar. In Russia, they called you the Tsar, which was also based on Caesar. So that tells you, like, Caesar became synonymous with the name for leader in multiple countries across Europe. So that's, like, how significant he is, which everybody knows, and then they kill him before he ever reaches that point in the show. That's crazy talk.
Yeah, that's insane. And it really, like, makes you wonder, ooh, like, yeah, now what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, like pretty much anything can happen at this point. Like, the entire trajectory of the Roman Empire has been altered at this point.
Yeah.
So, like, where can they go?
And that's exciting. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, the finale is what made me, like, more excited for, like, okay, now there needs to be a season 2.
Yeah,
like,
100%. And a big part of that, too, is that not only did you have that huge ahistoric event of the killing of Caesar, like, very early in his life, but you also have the fact that Ashur finally fucking vented out his frustrations and anger that he's been like having this whole season. This whole season has been Ashur getting shit on, having to eat it, like biting his fist and just taking it and just stewing on it and being like, fucking goddamn it, and dealing with it. And now he's finally acted out. And so it's like, okay, we haven't been getting the scheming Ashur villain that we had in the original Spartacus show because he's been trying to play by the rules. And now it's like, he's like, fuck that. Fuck the rules.
He realized
he can't win by the rules.
Well, he realized like too late that he was being used and that nobody had any intention of honoring their promises to him. He did what they wanted him to do, and they were just going to basically, yeah, you did that, now go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And he decided he wasn't going to take it anymore.
Yeah, and that's what makes this so exciting, because now the scheming goes into like full tilt.
Yes.
Because now it's like everything he did was like at the behest of somebody else. It was like somebody else's scheme and he was trapped in it and just trying to like work his way through it. And that's basically been his entire run through this season until this moment. And now this moment, it's like, okay, now you're the Ashur from the original show. You're going to be able to manipulate things to your favor, do things that you want, because you're not playing by the rules anymore. You're just doing whatever the fuck you want to get ahead in your own way. And now that makes him like a wild card again. It makes him like, okay, he can do anything now.
He realized nobody else is playing by the rules.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so fascinating, because now it's like, okay, I still don't think, even with the finale, that House of Ashur is nearly as good as the original shows, but it makes me really excited at the prospect of a season 2, where maybe it will be as good as the shows, maybe it'll be better than the original shows, because they're no longer hamstrung by history. They can do whatever they want now, which is like, oh, that's crazy. For a show that, as stylized as the original Spartacus was, it was always very historically accurate. And now they're like breaking from that, and that's like, okay, they're breaking from it, but they're breaking from it in an exciting way.
Yeah, exactly. I was like super satisfied with the finale. Hope we get season 2.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm glad they brought the animosity between Aquila and Tarkon to an end. That was getting really tiring.
Like a really good, that was getting tedious. But I did like Tarkin's character arc. I think they did like evolve his character pretty satisfactorily throughout the thing, like seeing his character evolution.
Yeah, good show. Like I said, not as good as the original series. If you're listening to this and you haven't watched the original series, watch the original series. All of the original series. It starts
Definitely
like you said, Blood and Sand, then Gods of the Arena, then I think it's Vengeance, and then War of the Damned. I think that's all of them. I'm not sure though. But yeah, absolutely fantastic series. House of Ashur feels very much like it. It's super crass, like more crass than most viewers are probably used to at this point. Like we talked about God of War being kind of like matured up, and the original game had like sex mini games, and the violence was more like cartoonish and stuff like that. This too, you know, like Spartacus as a series was from an era where like they were just able to do like much more extreme shit. And then right around the same time Spartacus came out, Game of Thrones came out and was also doing crazy shit, but was doing it kind of in a more sophisticated way. And then that kind of became more the standard of like, oh, you can do this violence, but you have to have this level of like maturity and you can't be too crass about it and stuff. And then Spartacus House of Ashur came in and said like, no, fuck that. You can still be super crass. You're going to see every single person in the cast naked, engaged in some kind of crazy form of coitus. That's what the series is. And you're going to see people die in horrific ways. And like I said, finally in the finale, we got a death that's like worthy of the kind of shit that we got in the original series, which makes me excited that that's kind of where they're leaning. And I think it was very intentional that they were saying, yes, like all of the gladiators that are alive today are like sea stringers, but that's not always going to be the case. The Spartacus rebellion, they all died. Like all the gladiators involved in that rebellion died, and they were all the top tier people, and that wasn't too long ago. So like what you only have these sea stringers around right now, but those sea stringers are going to start pushing up in the world. They're going to start becoming the A-listers. And I think the moment that Achilea did that kill in the finale was like, okay, this feels like a Spartacus kill now. This feels like the kind of thing we'd see Crixus or Gannicus or Spartacus do in Spartacus, you know? Not just like a normal stab 'em death, but like something much more like just insane and graphic and showy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's very intentional. It's like saying like these gladiators were like level 1s and now they are like starting to level up. You know, they're starting to become like the gladiators that were in the original series. And that's a cool thing. So.
Oh yeah.
That's Spartacus House of Ashur. So check that out. And no word on if there's a second season. Hopefully there is, because it feels like it's in the right place for that to really move forward and become even better. But next week, we are going to be doing Advocates of Great Entertainment, because it will be our 225th episode. And if you follow this show, you know that every 25 episodes we do Advocates of Great Entertainment, where we have a theme and then we each pick a movie or an episode of a TV show or something that fits that theme. And each of us picks one and we discuss those and kind of weigh why it's a favorite of ours, why it's important to us or something. This time, our theme is best film from our favorite directors. So we each picked like our favorite directors and then what we consider to be the best film from that director's catalog. And we've each made our picks. Oddly enough, they're both available on Amazon Prime, so you can get them all both in one place. My pick is A Simple Plan, which was directed by Sam Raimi. Most people know Sam Raimi for like The Evil Dead or Spider-Man, but he also did this movie, A Simple Plan, and I consider it to be his best movie. I'm like a super fan of Sam Raimi. A Simple Plan is like the least Sam Raimi movie, but it's also, I think, his best. And I love the Sam Raimi style and that his visual language and stuff. This does not really fit that, but it's still, I think, his best film. So yeah, that's my pick. It's on Amazon Prime. Tell us about your pick.
My pick is The Big Lebowski. It's by the Coen brothers. It stars Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, and Steve Buscemi. Is 100% one of the Coen brothers' best movies. It's one of like the best comedies I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, it's a brilliant movie.
But we're going to be talking about both of those. So next week, tune into our discussion where we're going to talk about A Simple Plan and The Big Lebowski. Until then, thank you everybody for listening. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will on both those platforms. He is at FoxoHero. You can check out our website, thetotallscreen.blogspot.com. If you go to our website and open up a container story for any of the podcast episodes, scroll down to the bottom paragraph. You'll find all the links to our social accounts, our RSS feed, all that stuff's there. You can also subscribe to our podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts, and the entire backlog of our podcasts, our entire 300 episode run of our old podcast, and additional content is all available on our YouTube channel as well, so you can check that out there. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.